Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast, the show where we fearlessly dive into the untold stories of real estate investors' greatest setbacks and how they turned those failures into resounding successes. I'm your host, Kate Berry, and we're talking with real estate investors across the country to learn exactly how and why they failed, and how they took that failure and turned it into a powerful lesson for their business. So come along with me, Kate Berry, on this transformative journey from failure to fortune. I invite you to join our supportive community where together we can inspire, educate, and motivate each other to achieve all of our real estate investing goals. Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast. I'm your host, Kate Berry. On this show, we dive deep into the journeys of real estate investors and agents who have experienced failures but are willing to share their lessons learned that help them turn those failures into fortunes. We are thrilled to be here today with our guest, Jeremy Beland. Jeremy is a highly successful real estate investor who, together with his wife, Shelly, have achieved a remarkable success in the real estate industry. Since 2017, they have closed over 400 off-market properties across 6 states, building a thriving real estate investing business. Jeremy, we're so excited to have you on our show today.
Kate, it's a great honor to be on your podcast today. I'm really excited and thankful for this opportunity. I am going to talk about so much failure today that they're going to realize, wow, I can't believe somebody could feel that much and still persevere. And believe me, there's nothing secret magic about me. I am as blue collar, come from nothing as anybody else in this industry, in this world. But I hope my story inspires and motivates people today to take that big, scary first step to get going. And this is the podcast to do it on. So I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you.
Let's hear about how you got started. So I'm hearing a bit of a Boston accent. Am I right?
Oh my God, I'm so Boston. Yeah, it's wicked cool. You know, we're just wicked awesome up here in the Northeast.
It's wicked awesome. Yes.
So I'm actually from New Hampshire, but I'm about 45 minutes north of Boston. My Boston accent is really thick. I have no idea why I even have a Boston accent. I never grew up in Boston. I grew up in New Hampshire. But when I was in the military and I traveled all around the country, everybody was like, "Where are you from, boy?" And I'd be like, "Boston." And I'm like, "Yeah, I thought so." So my nickname was Boston a lot of times when I traveled in the military.
Just easier.
But yes. I hope people can understand me. We don't talk about park and car and yards and car keys and all that stuff. You should be fine. But if we do, I'm so sorry.
We'll get some subtitles.
There we go. That'll be helpful. The funny thing is when I use captions, a lot of times it has no idea what I'm saying.
Right.
So, can't figure me out. I don't know about your audience, but hopefully they can.
So you grew up in New Hampshire. You were in the military, but in 2017, where were you? I shouldn't say 2017, excuse me. 2017 was when you started doing your off-market real estate investments, which I am so passionate about. I love hearing about, I love talking about people doing off-market deals, because a lot of times people will say, what is off-market? What does that mean? But it's a way to be extremely successful. But let's go back to the very beginning. How did you get into real estate?
All right. So I'm going to tell you my story. I'm going to try to go through it pretty quick, but there's a lot of ups and downs that I think your audience might want to hear. And it kind of just explains who I am and how I got to where I am, right? And we have to go way back, almost to the days where they didn't even have color TVs. So give you guys an idea, I'm almost 48 years old. So that's way back. So back in the 70s, I came into this world with a young single mom. She was in her early 20s, had me. My father was nowhere to be seen. She had me, obviously, outside of wedlock. She came from a very religious family. Family wanted nothing to do with either one of us. So we started my life into this journey into this world, basically homeless. She was bouncing around from one house to another house as a single mom, trying to get by. In my early years, the first 5-6 years, I on welfare, barely getting by, just super poor. And then she met my stepdad, and then they ended up getting married. And then as I came into my adolescence and early teens, we found some success, lower class, middle America. We were able to have like a small house in a little bit of a neighborhood, right? And we ended up having 2 kids, and life was great. We had like new cars, and I had a bike, I had clothes. It was great. Then he left his management job to start a window cleaning business because his cousin was doing it. And in the process of doing that, and this was about when I was about 13, 14 years old, he lost everything. So he went from having a good management position to start this business and lost everything in the process, to the point where the house was foreclosed on. It came out one morning, all our cars were repossessed, right? And so we had this window from poor to success. It was like about 6 or 7 years, and it was all gone again.
Wow.
And this was as I was getting ready to go into high school, and I started becoming a very troubled youth at that time. They were dealing with their own issues of trying to navigate this world of disaster for them, probably not focusing enough on me as they should have been. Everybody's in survival mode. So it just kind of put me in a different direction.
Sure.
I ended up going to 3 different high schools as a result, because they had no credit. We're bouncing around from house to house to house again. So here's I am, 14 years old, second time being basically homeless more or less in my life, and broke and through that situation, and started getting into drugs and drinking and getting arrested, just becoming a really lost youth.
Yeah, and the bad, wrong path.
Yeah, wrong path. And I ended up quitting high school at 15 years old, and I ended up working washing windows with him in his window cleaning business. And then next thing I knew, I was like 20 years old. I had no credit, no money, living paycheck to paycheck. Some weeks we didn't work, some weeks we did. It was just horrible. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? Right. That's when I found somebody who got me into the gym. I started working out, I quit smoking, stopped doing a lot of that other stuff. It was like the first major foundation building block to get me right. It's one of those things where it taught me about personal development. I went into the gym and I put in consistent effort. I saw results. It made me feel good. I saw the rewards of hard work, and it just made me want to get better. So that was like a very significant moment in my life. That led me to playing semi-pro football, which allowed me to meet this guy. And this at this point was in my early 20s. And now in Boston, I'm a high-rise window cleaner, hanging off the skyscrapers, making $12 an hour, covered in black soot and pigeon poop all day, thinking, please, doggone, I hope I don't die today. For $12 an hour. I had a $400 piece of junk car that I was using to get there and play. Please don't break down today. Please don't break down today.
That was living on the edge. You're like on the edge every day.
No money, no credit, poor. And my friend says, hey, you should get a job working with me, selling copiers. I work at this company. I think you'd be really good at it. Now, I've never owned a tie in my life. I had to go and buy my very first tie, have somebody go tie it so I could have it ready. Went on this interview, and somehow I landed this job doing sales. And the next thing you know, I was a basic entry-level salesperson selling printers and fax machines and copiers, right?
Yeah.
What was significant about this was I changed from blue collar to white collar, which gave me a real appreciation of not putting in that hard physical labor work every day, right? I wasn't cold and dirty every day. I was clean, but it was a whole new world. But with this type of sales, it was all outbound cold calling to businesses. It was business to business, and there's gatekeepers. So all I heard all day was no. But I didn't care because I was happy, right? But this started to build the building blocks for years later for our off-market acquisition training that I would come into.
Yes.
So needless to say, I met my first wife. We ended up getting married. I went into another sales position. And next thing I know, I'm making like 6 figures in my late 20s. By the time I'm 30, I have a nice house in New Hampshire. We have new cars. I have a pool in the backyard. I have a camper. I make 6 figures a year. I love my job. I have 2 little kids. I'm like, oh my God, I have made my dream. Like growing up poor.
You figured it out.
Middle class America was a dream come true for me, and I hit it.
Yep.
Then in my early 30s, the 2008 recession hit, and I got beat up bad. So everything that I worked for within a year and a half was gone.
Wow.
Because I didn't graduate high school. And if people don't remember the 2008, 2009 recession, this wasn't just a housing crisis. Right. This was also an employment crisis. Employment was incredibly high at that time. And again, I didn't graduate high school, didn't go to college. So all these people who were out of work that were more educated than me, more successful than me, were out of jobs too. And they were taking lesser paying jobs to get by, which pushed me down the totem pole even more, to a point where I couldn't find work and I was laid off. Next thing you know, I can't afford my mortgage payment. There's no loan modifications back then, no refinances, there's no SBA loans.
Everything was shut down.
COVID assistance.
Right.
The banks were closing, the mortgage companies were closing. There was no help for anybody like me.
That's right.
And here I am, in my early 30s, facing foreclosure, facing bankruptcy, 2 little kids, and I felt like the biggest failure in the world. I'm like, I can't believe it. I become my parents. My history has repeated itself. I'm homeless. I'm going to be homeless again. Now I have children that are going to be homeless with me. And I spiraled into this depression. And I
Oh my
felt so
God. Yeah.
bad and so guilty, you know, it was
Oh, I'm just
really,
getting
really dark
chills
time.
thinking about it. Like that must have been, it must feel emotional to even talk about it.
It's very emotional. It was a very challenging time, but I'm very thankful for it today. And here's why. So I'm wrapping up my story. I'm going to get there. I promise, guys. But
No,
this is
you're
really
good. This is a great story. I'm like on the edge. What happens
so.
next?
So I'm in this situation. I can't afford my house. You know, we're going to lose it. I can't afford to go back to college. I can't find a job anywhere. Like literally, it was like maybe I go back to washing windows for 12 bucks an hour, but I'm not going to be able to provide for my
Wow.
family
Right.
at that anymore. I don't have a high school education. I don't have a college education. I don't have any skills. And the sales jobs that I could do, nobody's hiring because the
Right.
economy's tanked.
Yep.
So an opportunity came in to go into the Air Force. And my thought process was I could go into the Air Force or the Army, but I chose the Air Force because I was going to go learn about network security.
Hmm.
So like firewalls and things like
Nice.
that. And then
Yep.
I could come out and I could sell network security to businesses. Hey, that sounds pretty recession proof to me because everybody's always going to need some kind of security network. So that was my thought process. But I can't get into the Air Force if I lose my house to foreclosure and bankruptcy. So, and the reason why is because the military says, because I had to get a top secret clearance, if you do this, you know, if you go through bankruptcy, they feel that you're going to sell government secrets for cash and they won't allow it. So you just can't get in.
Makes
That's their thought
sense.
process.
Wow.
So I have this opportunity, but I can't go through foreclosure and bankruptcy. At this time leading up to this, right before I started to lose my job during the recession, before the recession hit, I started to learn about real estate investing. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. Actually went and took a weekend seminar for Donald Trump University. Was learning from Peter Conti and some of these people. So I was getting an understanding for stuff. What they were teaching me about wholesaling was very different than the way we do it now. That was basically on market. Today I do off market, but they're teaching me that stuff. But then the recession hit, nothing was happening anywhere. But I knew enough to say, hey, if I can short sale this house, maybe it'd be okay. So what did I do? I called a local real estate investor who's still on my buyer's list today. Funny enough, it's the only deal we've ever done together, by the way.
Wow.
But he came out and this is like a game changer in my life, right? So he comes out and he's like, hey, listen, I know your mortgage company. They're very, very difficult to work with, but I have short sale properties with them before. I feel very confident we can get this deal done. And if we can get this deal done, well, you're good to go. I can get into the Air Force, right? So he's working on this. And during this time, because if you guys don't know, your listeners don't know, you can't profit off of a short sale. So I'm not
Right.
getting any money out of this. He's just basically saving my ass. But
Saving
he
yourself
knew
from bankruptcy.
saving myself from bankruptcy. But he knew how broke we were because we had no money coming in. My wife was a teacher, working some, but we didn't have much money coming in. So
Yeah.
he started buying stuff like a shed in the backyard, some appliances around the house. It was just like a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. But he was doing this to provide value. And this was literally like Christmas presents for my kids one year, clothes on their backs because they're only like 2 and 4 years old at this time, you
Yeah.
know, just groceries, basic necessities. And I was so thankful. I was really ashamed and embarrassed, but I was so thankful in the same time. And this guy came in and he saved me and allowed me to go into the Air Force. So I left my family at 33 years old, went into the Air Force. He was short sold our house. Her parents helped us get another place in the town that she was teaching in. I went into basic training just before the age cutoff line of 34 years old. My nickname was Gramps in basic training because I was in there with a bunch of 17-year-old kids. I was so old to them, so old.
And now 34 sounds so young,
I
it's
know
like
it
it
does.
is young.
Again.
Ramps, that's funny.
But you know, I went away for 6 months to make a measly like $36,000 a year to get this training. It was a time that I actually was selfishly needed to rebuild it myself. It was really hard being away from my children,
Yeah.
but it was a pivotal moment that came back. But that real estate investor gave me a reset button in life to do what I need to do. And if it wasn't for him that day, I wouldn't be here talking to you and your listeners today. So
Wow.
incredibly grateful, right? So I go into the basic training, go into my training and come back, can't find a job, struggle to get some jobs, eventually find a job, get divorced. And then fast forward a handful of years, now I'm basically about 40 years old and I'm making six figures again, got back up, own a townhouse, joint custody of my kids, you know, then meet my now wife, Shelly, who was like my friend and girlfriend during that time period. And it started to feel like, what happens if this happens again, right? I've already gone through it multiple times in my life. I feel like it's inevitable that it's just going to collapse underneath me again. I have no control of my
Sure.
life.
Yeah, you've got that, you're gun shy now, you're
Gun
a
shy,
little
right?
like,
What
I
if
don't
the
want.
owner sells the company that I'm
Mhm.
working for? What if I can't find another job? So I started panicking. So as I'm traveling, I have a traveling job around the country. I'm starting to listen to podcasts like this one about real estate investing and start reading books and stuff like this. And I'm like, all right, I need to take this advantage, get into this somehow. I wanted to own property as a landlord. That was a goal. But eventually, one podcast led me to another podcast, which led me to Tom Kroll. Tom Kroll is a wholesaling coach out of Florida who started Wholesaling Inc. in 2015, 2016. And he had a dynamic personality, and I was just drawn to it. And after listening to him for about a year, being in a state of analysis paralysis, because how do I start this? I can't do this. I said, you know what? I'm going to. And at 40 years old, 40 years, so it'd be 8 years ago this September coming up. We're recording this in July. I ended up selling the townhouse that I owned for less than 2 years because it was the only money that I had to start my business. I sold it. I made $17,000. I moved my kids and myself into a crappy little 2-bedroom apartment in not a nice area. I was burning the boats. I was all in. I took $17,000, $6,000 paid off credit card debt, $11,000 started my real estate business. 5 went into a coaching program, $6,000 went into my initial marketing contract. That got me my first deal. We started January 2017, got my first deal in March of 2017, a measly $5,000. But proof of concept, I can do this. This works. I just did my first wholesale deal.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's amazing, right? And then Shelly, my beautiful wife Shelly, she joins us. We go on to do 10 deals that first year while working a full-time job, while blending 5 kids, while moving 3 times in the first 2 years of our business. We went on to do 10 deals that first year, built the foundation. She quit her job, been working with us. A couple of years later, I quit my job, been working full-time in. Since then, as we stand here today, finishing 8 years, this is mind-blowing. All right. So we've done close to 450 off-market transactions between wholesales, flips, buy and holds, and everything else. We have grossed over $10 million in gross profits since we started in 2017. In 2017, I only made $73,000. So it's amazing, just the power of momentum. Wasn't easy. Invested a lot of money into coaching, made a ton of mistakes. We're going to talk a lot about those mistakes and failures today.
Yes.
But if I didn't take that scary first step, joining the military and or paying for that first coaching program, I wouldn't be here today. I'm so incredibly grateful because I lived the life that I always dreamed of today, and I have control of my life. My destiny does interest rates, market, economy, none of that matters anymore. I have full control of my life. So that's my story.
What I really love about your story is that you had gone through multiple iterations of almost the same type of hero's journey, right? And I think it's interesting when people talk about the difference between being poor and broke, and there's a really big difference. But when you grow up poor, you're not afraid of being poor. You know how to live, right? You can make it work. But being broke is a different type of stress when you have built up so much and then to see it all come crashing down. That can be really destabilizing. So I love to hear that you never gave up and you did what you had to do to take care of your family and take care of yourself and improve yourself. That's what I take most out of this story is that maybe your darkest moment, you decided to go join the Air Force, which is how much more self-improvement can you get, especially you're at the older end, right? Like you're not necessarily that ideal candidate, but you knew that going in, there's going to maybe get your mindset, get yourself financially stable, put yourself in a different position so that you can start over. And you did start over. And for our listeners who are maybe thinking about getting into real estate, they may be saying to themselves, what is a wholesale deal? What is a wholesaler?
It's a great question. So a wholesaler, basically, what I like to say is like the art of finding off-market discounted properties. But the reality is a wholesale deal is if you get a purchase agreement for a property at 123 Main Street, right? You have a purchase and sales and you're going to buy that property with a contract for 123 Main Street. It is an assignable contract, and you are allowed to assign the rights to that contract via another contract called an assignment contract. But basically, take that contract for the purchase sales, assign the rights to another buyer, and that buyer will pay you a fee for the rights to that contract. So it's a great entry-level way of getting into this business because outside of other marketing costs and coaching costs, you don't have to buy the house. You're not really on the hook for anything. So if you screw up, you may be out like a little bit of an EMD and some bumps and bruises, but overall, you're not going to lose a substantial amount of money. But it's a good way to learn how to acquire off-market properties, and you get quick sums of cash by providing these to other people who do want properties but don't want to go out and look for them.
So you're kind of, some people call it bird dogging, but
Yeah.
what you're really doing is you're finding the deal. And so someone might be listening saying, why are they getting paid for wholesaling a deal, assigning a contract? What is the value there? And it's exactly what you said. You're the one finding the deal, going towards approaching off-market sellers and talking to them, selling them. You're doing the cold calling again. We're going back to that first story of when you were cold calling and selling printers. It's the same type of job, really, but
Yes.
you're selling more than a printer.
Yeah, for people like who don't understand like off-market deals, like they're out there everywhere. There's an abundance of it, right? There's like 2 million foreclosures that come into this country every year. So it's like a conveyor belt of properties that come along. But with that being said, it's a lot like a numbers game too. So you're kind of looking through haystacks for needles, and those needles are off-market deals. And a lot of times the people that you work with are distressed. So if you go back to my story when I was in 2008, 2009, I was a distressed homeowner. I couldn't sell my house and profit out of it, but I could short sale because the economy was so bad that everybody's house was upside down $150,000 or more, right? But in today's day and age, where properties usually are worth more than they have on the property, which is the complete opposite of the way it was back then. But there are people distressed. So my company, myself and my companies, everything we've done, I've been able to pay it forward to that person I was back in 2008, 2009, over 400 times, over and over again, and gave all those people reset buttons. So you're not only just finding deals, you're providing great value and help to a lot of people in the community. Some of these people don't even realize they even know about you or need your help. Then you come in, you change their lives, and it's game changing. You're like, I really helped this person a lot, and I made a ton of money doing it. Yeah. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Right. You're giving them a lifeline in many cases where they may think they're drowning. I've worked as a real estate agent since 2017. And what's shocked me probably the most in my career is talking with sellers or homeowners that feel that they have no other option other than to lose their home to foreclosure.
Yeah.
And they let that process happen because, well, maybe they're not sure of any way out, but they also may feel embarrassed. Like that's what I'm hearing. I remember hearing when you were telling that story about 2008, 2009, you had that feeling of guilt or shame, a feeling that as a failure. So having gone through that, is that part of your approach when talking to these?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Couple things so a lot of people don't understand this is the reason why we need to market to these people, right? Because they may not have the knowledge to know that people like us exist, and they think I can't use a real estate agent, right? And my only other option is to lose it, right? That was my philosophy or my thought process, but I just knew enough to call a real estate investor, but most people don't. So this is why we're doing marketing. And not everybody is a fit for a real estate agent. Not everybody's looking for highest and best dollar. Some people, the value of you solving their problem is much greater than the monetary value that they can get out of the property. The guy who short sold my house, I don't know how much money he made. I'm sure he made a ton. I don't care, right? Because he saved me, right? So these are the type of situations we're doing all the time. But to answer your question, yes, in our business, in our philosophy of acquisitions, and how we coach our students in our coaching program, we come from a place of empathy. We come from a place of bringing value. We're problem solvers, we're friends, right? And we need to come in and talk to this person who is unlikely or who is likely emotional, irrational, depressed. They probably have their head in the sand head in the sand like an ostrich while the world's collapsing around them, embarrassed and shamed, right? And now they have to open up to a complete stranger about this situation, which is no easy task because they probably don't even want to admit to it. But in order to successfully help them and to make this transaction go through, we need to get through that wall and get this person, this complete stranger, to open up to us with honesty and transparency, so we can help come up with a customized solution. Because all these situations are somewhat similar, but they all have their unique situations, and you have to customize it, tailor make it to what they need specifically. And you have to be a problem solver for them.
Yes.
But you can't do that without open, honest conversation like you would with a friend. So I have to go make a friend and get this person open up and build this trust, build this rapport, have this transparency. And we have to be a truth teller and a truth seeker. So we're being very open and honest with them with everything we plan on doing. I plan on taking this contract and selling it for profit. Do you have a problem with that? No. Okay. Well, I need you to be open and honest about everything your situation is so I can figure out the next steps to help you and provide value. And that's a lot of what we do. And that's where
Nice.
we
I love
earn the
that.
money in this business.
I love that you said open and honest and being transparent and saying that outright to someone, because I have worked with wholesalers in the past that kind of miss that whole part of the conversation with the person that they're working with. And all of a sudden you kind of get to, or say, you know, I've got wholesalers that will come to me and say, hey, I've got this deal. I say, okay, great. I got a buyer. We start going through the process. Then suddenly the seller is like, wait a second, what do you mean there's a new buyer? What do you mean the price is different? I didn't realize I was leaving money on the table. And guess what? The deal sometimes will fall apart because they weren't upfront and honest. And now they felt like they were taken for a ride a little bit. So I love hearing you say that you are open and honest and upfront, because there's probably a lot of different types of wholesalers out there. And I think it can be a great, easy access for someone wanting to get interested in real estate to start in wholesaling, because you don't need a lot of money to start. For our listeners, what advice would you give someone who's like thinking about getting into wholesaling today in today's type of market?
So I think there's a misconception out there that you don't need any money to start. Listen, at the end of the day, you could play the lottery and you may win, but the chances of that happening are slim and none. And that's basically what it takes to get into this business with no money. But with that being said, if you look at all the different types of businesses, the money that you need to bring to the table to get started isn't that much. I started my business with $11,000. How many more businesses can you start with $11,000 that could make you six figures in the first year? Very few and hard to come by, right? And that was with me spending $5,000 on coaching. Right. So what I would tell everybody is, if you're serious about doing this, understand that it's a simple business, but it's not easy. And you think you may know stuff, but I'm telling you, there's more that you don't know than you do know. And you won't know what you don't know until you start going through all this stuff. There's a lot of knows and don't knows and stuff in that sentence. But, you know, I am a strong believer in coaching. Obviously, I'm a coach now, but this isn't about me selling as a coaching. Like, if I didn't hire that coach when I initially started, I would have never done that first deal in 90 days, right? Some of my students have been trying to figure it out for 6, 7, 8 months by themselves. They come into our program and in a couple months they get a deal, right? Because we can guide them. And the reason why I've been able to do 450 deals and $10 million wasn't because of that one coach. It's because since then, I've invested over $350,000 in ongoing coaching for myself, my team, you know, my businesses, everything else, between masterminds and everything I can to get better and my team to get better. And that's the way you do it. So we always say the best investment is in yourself, right? Yes. Personal development. You talked a little bit about it. So I'm very passionate about personal development, because if I didn't start lifting weights in my 20s or read every day now or invest into getting more education, I can't achieve the goals that I want to achieve. That goes with my team as well. So if you want to get started, a couple of things you need to know. You need to have a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit of money for marketing to get started. You got to understand that it's going to take you a few months to probably get your first deal. I like to tell my students when they come in, probably going to be 3 or 4 months before you get your first deal. It's going to take you a solid year with consistent marketing and good coaching to build the foundation of something great. It takes a year to get this business up and running. People are telling you, I'll get your first deal in 30 days. You'll be a millionaire. But listen, there's no shortcuts. There's no secret things. There's no magic weight loss pill here. Right. It's good old fashioned, consistent, boring effort that you got to do every day, and having self-discipline to stick with it. Just like if you want to go to the gym and lose weight, or you want to put in time to run a marathon, you have to put in the work every day, but the compound effect over that will yield great results. A lot of people fail because they don't want to put in the consistent effort every day.
I think the real estate world, especially, maybe not especially wholesalers, but because it can be so easy entry, they do. And a lot of folks are out there selling their coaching programs and they want to make it sound easy so people will spend money. If someone's listening to this, how can they decide, how can they discern what's going to be an effective coaching program versus one that may be blowing smoke?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So first of all, you need to ask yourself, if I'm going to invest in your coaching program, am I 100% committed to doing the daily tasks that need to get done, right? It's one thing to pay money to learn, but you need to take that knowledge and apply action, because that knowledge without action doesn't do anything. So you need to understand, are you ready to not go away this weekend? Are you willing to get up early in the morning, skip Netflix at night, whatever the things you need to do to get the deal done, right? Maybe make phone calls during your lunch hour, get out of work and go on appointments when you're tired and had a bad day. If you're ready to make that commitment because you want to change your life, then when it comes to coaching, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, right? And a lot of people will put themselves in a picture of success. Now, they may have success, but that's not always the case for everybody else, right? So, there's professionals, there's amateurs, and everything in between. What I would say first and foremost is be patient. Find somebody that you vibe with. I think this is really important. There's going to be people that could probably tell you a good program and teach you everything you need to know and get you to success. But if you don't really connect with that person, you are unlikely probably to put in the effort. But if you feel a connection to this person, like, oh man, I would love this guy to coach my sports team, right? That kind of person, then that's probably the right fit for you. I am not the right fit for everybody, and that's okay. I don't want their money. I don't want them in our coaching program if they feel we're not the right fit for each other, because that's important. Just like when we go to buy a house from as a wholesaler, we're not always the right fit for a seller, and that's okay. Right? We know that a lot of times that's not going to be the case, but when we are, great things can happen. So I would say, make sure you're the right fit first and foremost. Make sure that they have proven results, right? They have testimonials and things like that, and make sure that they're doing the business. There's a lot of people who say that they do the business, but they're more coaches than actually doing the business. There's not anything wrong with that, but businesses change, and it's one thing to be taught by somebody who's still doing the stuff. And when the interest rates go high, right? You're talking to somebody who's feeling the interest rates going high at the same time, as opposed to somebody who did, wholesaling from 2015 to 2018 when everything was up and to the right. Now he's the greatest guru coach in the world, right? It's apples and oranges. So
yes, I mean, this real estate market changes faster than ever before in history, and so you've got to be adaptable. You have to be able to adjust. And I agree with you 100% about they should be doing this work as they're teaching it, because they should be learning as they're going and then passing on that knowledge.
As a coach myself, I have a coaching for my coaching business, right? So to teach me to be a better coach, I have a coach, my overall CEO business, right? And then I also have a CFO coach. I have 3 coaches right now. So I am telling you, I am a coach. I can teach you how to start your wholesaling business from the ground up and get you up and running. But I believe in coaching so much that I am spending thousands of dollars every month to get better at everything that I do. So I agree.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about how your business runs today. Walk us through how your business is working, how you structure maybe your day or your week around what you need to be doing for your coaching development, and then where are you looking for the future?
So I'll start with when it comes to off-market acquisitions. We started out as wholesalers, and I love people coming in and starting out as wholesaling. But this is not the place you want to stay forever, okay? Unless that's something you really want to do. But if you want to grow and develop and get more wealthy and make more money and stuff, wholesaling is not going to get you there. Wholesaling is basically, from a cash perspective, is like an ATM. It's very transactional, right?
Sure.
When you're doing business, it provides money, and that money can do different things. But what's really great about when coming in as a wholesaler is learning that art of acquiring off-market deals. Once you get really good at acquiring off-market deals, when we talked earlier about providing values and getting those contracts under there, eventually you get away from just assigning those deals to a point where, like we do in our businesses now, where we cherry pick our pipeline. So in our New Hampshire, Massachusetts market, we probably do on average about 40 houses a year, right? And out of those 40 houses, I get 3+ houses a month. And from that, I can make us to $2 million a year off of 40 houses a year. And that you can't do that as a wholesaler. But you can start to cherry pick your pipeline, because I have built this machine. I have a sales guy, we have marketing, and these deals come in every single month. And I say, oh, this is a nice, easy flip to make good money. Let's take this down. We use private lending. We don't use our own money. And this is something really important you need to learn along the way, but not when you get started, but later on. And so we use other people's money to take down these properties, we renovate them, and it brings in large sums of cash, right? But there's projects that, depending if we have cash flow needs or if it's a house we don't like, we just wholesale them along. Sometimes we just close on them, like what we call wholesales, and throw them right back on the MLS. Sometimes, hey, this makes a great rental property. I'm going to keep it for myself So I could build long-term wealth and build equity and stuff through that. So I could build all this stuff out by off-market acquisition. But in order to get really good at that, becoming a wholesaler and getting that entry level, learning those skills can really make you millions of dollars down the road. But you will never get rich as a wholesaler. You will just
you
learn
gotta
the skills.
evolve, right? You have to evolve.
So my businesses today, we're just solely focused on off-market acquisitions. I have a team. You know, we've tried scaling a few times. We've been in different markets. You mentioned in the intro that I've been in 6 markets. Today we're in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. That's our original market. And then we're in South Florida with Dan Toback, who's one of our coaches in our coaching program. We were in Western New York for a while. We had great success in Western New York and Buffalo, New York, but Attorney State, I had an opportunity to leave there to go to Florida. I took it and ran. Plus, our acquisition guy wanted to kind of go on his own. So it was just a good ending of a nice run there. But, you know, another thing in this business that as you get going, people say you got to scale, you got to scale, you got to scale. That is not true. You do not need to scale. And because and there's a lot of ego, right? So if you feel like you're not scaling, you feel less worthy of being a real estate investor or a successful wholesaler or a successful business leader. But scaling works for some, but doesn't work for many. I could tell you firsthand, I've scaled a few times. I've scaled back. Less is more. You know, Shelly and I have a great team in place. We probably could make more money than we do, but time is more valuable than the dollar for us. So we pay out more to do less within our business. We work on our business. We manage some of our smaller flips and things like that, but we're really just working on making our business better. We don't go on appointments anymore. We don't handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff because that time is more valuable. We're approaching the 50s. Our kids are leaving the nest. That's important to us. But what's cool about all of this is none of this requires anybody working like 40 hours a week, like a traditional job. You can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as a wholesaler working 20, 25 hours a week. And you can customize anything. Once you learn off-market acquisitions, you can be a flipper, you can do rentals, you can do all of it. You can just be a wholesaler. And you can build it around the life that you want to be. You don't even have to live in the same house.
Right.
So, you know, you do it from afar and everything else. So that's what we do. So my day, you know, I have sales calls with students coming into the program. I coach our students because I'm very passionate about their success. A lot of it's just Zoom stuff as far as my business, like KPIs, you know, our marketing companies and all that stuff. It's just running a business. That's all it is these days. But it's fun. Yeah, I love it.
I know it is fun because every day is different. And I love what you're saying about wholesaling is a great way to get started and you're supposed to be bringing in the deals. But yeah, the real money is the deals, you know, and so you got to evolve yourself to be that buyer and seller and investor because, you know, and that's the thing with a changing market like we have, you've got to be flexible. And if you know how to flip or buy and hold or have the different options that you have in real estate, you'll know the best way to make money with each deal. And that's a value.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So last year in 2023 here in New Hampshire, interest rates were really high. And this was our probably worst year since like 2020, but we still were able to hit the 7-figure mark. But I didn't flip any houses at all because I was too afraid of houses sitting on the market for too long. But I have that ability to pivot, right? Because I don't have one specific model, right? I'm not just a wholesaler. I'm not just a flipper. I can pivot with the way things going. Right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have like 6 flips going and 3 burrs. So like we're full speed ahead.
Nice.
7%, 8% interest rates, it doesn't matter because inventory is low. People are still buying. It's become the new norm. The panic is over. People are coming to realization like we're not going to see 4% anymore. Nothing below that ever again.
That's right.
If you see 6, be thankful.
Yes, it's everything in real estate is relative to 6 months, and now then it's the new normal. 6 is the new normal. 7 is the new normal. And people have adjusted. We've all adjusted, and the panic is a little
bit just like you do with high gas prices, right? All of a sudden, gas has doubled when it was a year ago, but we all survived somehow.
That's right. We all survived. Keep going. Just keep going.
100%.
Jeremy, thank you so much for being on our show today. You know, this will be in our show notes to everyone listening, but tell us, what is the best way for anyone interested in reaching out or learning more about you? What's the best way to find you?
So I'm all over social media, Jeremy Beland, Beland. But best way is to go to our Facebook group. It's the Off Market REI Freedom Fighters. Off Market REI Freedom Fighters. In there, we give tons of value. Last night with my personal coach, we did a masterclass just on dispositions. We got a bunch of things pinned to the top, like our top 5 sales techniques to off market acquisitions. And I do lives all the time. You want to learn from somebody who has success and for free? This is the group to do it. Come there and just come learn and be part of the community. I'm sure you won't be sorry. It'll be great. Yeah.
That's so exciting. I love your energy. I love your story. I love your honesty. Thank you for sharing with us today, Jeremy. And thank you to all our listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. This is the Real Estate Investing from Failures to Fortunes podcast, and I'm your host, Kate Berry.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast. If you enjoyed today's stories and insights, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us. Remember, your journey in real estate is a marathon, not a sprint. Embrace the failures, learn from them, and turn them into your stepping stones to success. I'm Kate Berry, and until next time, keep hustling, stay inspired, and keep turning those failures into fortunes. Happy investing.